Hello, welcome to Granada Reports. We're live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello, on the programme this evening.
A typical teenage boy obsessed with video games, now fighting in Ukraine. His mum tells us he's there without any military training on his first trip abroad.
We meet the team of medics setting up a field hospital in Ukraine to help the sick and the wounded.
Relief for this mum after a court rules her son can have a potentially life-saving kidney transplant.
On International Women's Day, we meet the boxer who's fighting for her sport to be more inclusive.
And it's been nice to see some blue skies again today. More cloud in the forecast going forward. All the details are coming up.
So please stay with us. Only last week, Jamie was a typical teenager playing computer games in his room in Warrington. 72 hours later, he'd sneaked out and somehow managed to travel to Ukraine to fight on the front line.
His mother says he's never even left the UK before, and his only knowledge of conflict comes from army cadets and playing the video game Call of Duty. He was sent a briefing document on the Ukrainian language and told to take warm clothes and a knife.
Government advice here is not to travel to Ukraine for any reason. But Jamie's mum and uncle blame what they call irresponsible comments from Liz Truss last week. The Foreign Secretary had said that she would back anyone who went out there to fight. She has since withdrawn those comments. His family has been speaking to Andy Bonner, and we are protecting their identity.
He's just a lazy teenager, the normal teenage boy.
Jamie's mum is frantic with worry. The 19-year-old computer gamer left home on Saturday night and is now in Ukraine.
Hasn't got any military experience or anything like that. It's just literally from Call of Duty. He did go to Army Cadets, but he was only at the very early stages of Army Cadets, so he's never shot a rifle or anything like that.
He's got that caring side of him, but there's also that side where he doesn't fully understand the repercussions of, say, shooting a weapon.
Obsessed with the military, Jamie had been joking he was going to fight. But on Friday, he contacted a London-based organisation. He wrote, "Hello, I'm here to sign up to help Ukraine fight off Russia. I was told to email you to get more information." They replied thanking him for his support and asking him to fill out a form. A note added that he should only book tickets if he had military, combat or medical, rescue, firefighting or mechanical experience. Jamie wrote back saying he'd booked his £45 flight to neighbouring Poland.
Not in a million years would I think that he would be able to do that on his own for the first time with no travel experience whatsoever. His passport is still a child's passport.
And the fact that he's able to, I think it was something like 36 hours, be able to sign up without no checks. We essentially should be checking people who's going.
Jamie's family are convinced he's been influenced by media coverage and what he's seen online.
If people want to support that struggle, I would support them in doing that. So you support.
And they've called the Foreign Secretary irresponsible for appearing to suggest Brits could privately join the fight.
He's seen that. He's seen it. It's on his YouTube feed. And it's only a couple of days after it's all happened. He's gone.
We're not against people wanting to fight at all, but a 19-year-old boy...
It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been able to happen.
Jamie messaged his mum today confirming he's signed up. He's promised to let her know each day that he's safe.
It's Andy, buddy.
Andrew Powell set up a charity to support veterans after the trauma of service.
Anybody that is wanting to and has the thought process of going to Ukraine, please don't do it. And particularly if you've got no military experience whatsoever, think about the lasting effects for yourself and your mental health and your families that you're leaving behind to go there and potentially going to leave behind for forever if you don't come home.
Should other parents be worried?
Burn your kids' passports. Just burn the passports.
What is your worst fear for Jamie?
Either that he doesn't come back, or he does come back and he's suffering severe PTSD because he's not had that mental training. I don't even want to think that far. I don't. Every day I'm just waiting for that phone call in the morning or text in the morning to say I'm alive and I'm okay.
Jamie's family want more done here to stop vulnerable people leaving to fight, and they want Ukraine to let them know exactly what Jamie will be doing. In the meantime, they just hope someone can talk him into coming home. Andy Bonner, ITV News, Warrington.
OK, let's bring in our political correspondent, Leisha Manali, who's in Westminster for us this evening. Leisha, this is an extraordinary story, isn't it? What has the Foreign Office had to say about it today?
Well, the Foreign Office says it continues to urge against going to Ukraine and adds that anyone who travels to conflict zones to engage in unlawful activity should expect to be investigated upon their return to the UK. Now, we did ask for clarification on exactly what unlawful activity could mean in this context, also what steps are being taken to monitor Britons who have made the journey and how they're going to prevent others from joining them. The Foreign Office had nothing more to add today. But while it's understandable to want to do something in the face of this conflict, the official line remains that unaware and untrained people will do far more harm than good. The MP for Wyre and Preston North, Ben Wallace, has urged Britons not to attempt to join in the fighting, saying it's a highly dangerous situation that could end up getting them killed. The Defence Secretary himself, a former soldier, said that the best way to help Ukraine's army and its people is through official routes and efforts from home.
Britain has helped coordinate and has personally delivered thousands and thousands of weapon systems that the Ukrainians are using very well. And one of the reasons the Russian army, one of the biggest armies on the planet, has grind to a halt is because of a number of those weapon systems that the West has provided. At the same time, we've got to double our efforts on humanitarian aid, which is why the Prime Minister hosted the Canadian Prime Minister and the Dutch Prime Minister yesterday to make sure we do more.
At least the man at the centre of this, leading the calls for people to join his army, has been speaking to MPs in the last hour, hasn't he?
That's right. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has dialed into the House of Commons, speaking directly to our politicians from a war zone. Now, this is genuinely unprecedented. No external visitor has ever been invited to speak to the chamber before. Previous world leaders such as Nelson Mandela and Barack Obama, when they've come, have had to speak from elsewhere on the parliamentary estate. And that's because tradition dictates that you have to be an elected MP to speak in the chamber. It seems the time for tradition is over, the President receiving a standing ovation from our politicians, and it's hugely symbolic that when they heard an external voice within the chamber for the very first time, it was a voice speaking in Ukrainian. President Zelensky spoke of children killed, of hospitals shelled, of cities running out of water, but of people who he said aren't running out of fight.
We will not give up and we will not lose. We will fight till the end, at sea, in the air. We will continue fighting for our land, whatever the cost. We will fight in the forests, in the fields, on the shores, in the streets.
And that was just one moment in a 10-minute address in which he went through the details of every day of this conflict so far. Hard to believe now that this war is less than 2 weeks old.
Absolutely. Thanks, Leisha.
Well, the ongoing conflict continues to inflict heavy humanitarian consequences on those still living in Ukraine.
Yeah, the terrible suffering experienced by people has led to volunteers from the UK travelling to the country to help where they can.
Among them is UK Med, an AIDS charity based in Manchester that has assembled a group of medics used to working in conflict zones.
Yeah, they plan to set up a field hospital there. Our correspondent Mel Barham has been speaking to them ahead of their trip.
This may look like yet another warehouse, but this is actually all the kit that's needed to create this. This field hospital can be erected in just 72 hours and is hopefully about to go to Ukraine along with a team of medics, thanks to this Manchester-based charity.
Desperately needed. The scale of the problem is such that facilities are very quickly overwhelmed, so they need all the support that they can get. And over and above that are the additional problems caused by the injuries from war and the health problems caused by migrating over many miles.
UK Med have been deploying to disaster zones for decades, but they're now putting all their energy in getting this kit to Ukraine, along with a volunteer team of around 50 medics.
So tell us, this is the kit bag that all the volunteers will have when they go out?
Yeah. So you've got ration packs. You know, these have got enough to feed a person for a day. We've got 3 of those, home comforts, tea bags, thermos, water bottles.
For Tom, this is personal. His father's Ukrainian, with many family and friends still in the country.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. Because it's, homeland, basically.
And of course, along with medical supplies, a whole logistical team is also needed.
We could have to source our own water from a local river or some such, so we're going to need to take some additional pumps and treatment processes.
And just show us the toilet that will be here at the field hospital.
So, again, on that theme of adaptability, we need to be able to manage the waste. So this is a very simple design using a pit latrine and just a plastic storage box.
The charity has a small group out there already, currently on the Polish border, due to enter Ukraine tomorrow.
We're anticipating that there won't be enough. Everybody's anticipating that the needs are going to be great and the needs are going to last for a very long time.
But it's not just charities going out to help. This man from Accrington's returned to Ukraine, where he had been working, to deliver a lorry load of aid donated by people here in the northwest.
The situation here is really bad. People have no food. They've left everything. There's a lot of people here. There's 160 people in this school who are staying. Many of them are elderly, need medicine. A lot of kids here as well.
Back at this warehouse in Stockport, they're hoping to ship this all out tomorrow. But relying entirely on donations, they've launched a new appeal to raise £500,000 to continue that work.
I can guarantee that your money will be spent entirely on giving essential medical care to some of the most needy people in the world at the moment. All our doctors, nurses, paramedics, they're all volunteers. The money will go on delivering healthcare right where it's needed.
And they know it can't come soon enough. Mel Barham, ITV News, Stockport.
And there's more on UK Med and how you can help with their appeal on our website, itv.com/Granada.
Yeah, what incredible people they are, and we wish them well with that important mission ahead of them. Well, next tonight, a court has granted a teenage boy a lifeline today, allowing him the chance of getting a kidney transplant.
Yeah, we've been following the case of William Verdon closely after it was revealed doctors at the Royal Manchester Children's Hospital had asked the judge to intervene in his complex case.
Our correspondent Amy Welch has been in court for us today. Amy, a hugely important day for William and his family.
That's right, this was the news William and his family desperately wanted. He will now be placed on the waiting list for a kidney transplant, which could potentially save his life, thanks to a decision made by this court. Now, the reason this case came to court in the first place is that his mum, Amy McLennan, and the Royal Manchester Children's Hospital, where he's being treated, couldn't agree on what was in his best interest. William himself is 17 and he has ADHD and autism, which means in the eyes of the law he lacks the mental capacity to make that decision for himself. The rare kidney disease that he has means his kidney only functions at 5% and he needs dialysis at least 4 times a week, and his mum has always believed that a new kidney would give him the best chance at life. These videos were taken just a few weeks ago and show him playing golf and pool and enjoying a good standard of living. But if that transplant had been denied today, doctors say his life expectancy may only be around 12 months. And that was, of course, devastating for his mum to hear, and is why she has fought so hard to get this case to court. Here was her reaction to the news a little earlier.
This judgment is about trying to look to the future. What's happened is in the past, and we now need to focus on trying to find a crucial donor who can provide William with the best chance in life. We continue to be amazed by how many people have been touched by William's story and remain ever so thankful for those who have expressed a wish to potentially become a donor or who have contacted us with messages of support. Thank you.
Well, another concern that William's mum has had throughout this process is that he was being denied the transplant because of his learning disability. Now, that is something that the Royal Manchester Children's Hospital has always denied. They say they were simply concerned that the transplant might not work and that his autism and ADHD would mean him possibly having to undergo sedation and ventilation to deal with the wires and tubes involved in that treatment. They gave us this statement earlier today.
William has a rare condition affecting his kidneys, and each treatment option had its own risks to his health and well-being. That's why we asked the court to make this difficult decision, and why the judge noted that she respected our approach to establishing what's best for William. William, his family and our staff have all worked really hard together to support his dialysis, and we'll now be liaising with William and his family regarding how best to progress his treatment.
Well, when William's mum put out an appeal for a donor a few weeks ago, she was overwhelmed at the response, the kindness of complete strangers, and it will now be a case of finding a match and ensuring that transplant happens as quickly as possible.
Amy, thank you.
Next, and Stephen Long from Stockport was holidaying in Abu Dhabi when he suffered what his family say was a psychotic episode.
Yeah, when he was boarding a flight home, the ex-army medic told staff he was scared that there was a bomb on the plane.
He was arrested for making false claims, and the courts there have ruled he must pay £100,000 in the next month or face prison.
Our correspondent Rob Smith has been speaking to his wife and his sister.
As an army medic in bomb disposal, as a paramedic after leaving the forces, Steve Long from Stockport witnessed much trauma. Trauma his family believe surfaced during a holiday to Abu Dhabi. While he was there in January, the Emirates suffered a drone strike. His loved ones say he became agitated, scared, plagued by hallucinations. Boarding a flight home, Steve told airport staff he feared a bomb was on board. He was arrested and convicted of making a false claim.
Scared, frightened. He has no recollection of what happened.
Now relatives have been told he must pay a fine of £103,000 or go to jail, away from the doctors who've stabilised him.
How fearful are you for what's going to happen to him now?
I'm petrified because if he ends up in prison, I think he'll die. And I don't want that. I just want to get him home.
Steve's wife Eloise is pleading with justice officials in Abu Dhabi to see how his comment was a symptom of psychosis, not a criminal act.
He was scared. He was scared for his life. He was scared for other people's lives. And yes, people around him panicked. And yes, they had to stop the flight and search for the bomb. And they didn't find anything. And it cost them 6 hours of standby for the flight. But there was never any threat at all. He was never a danger to anyone.
The family say they've had little contact with Steve. They're struggling to both understand the legal system he faces and find money for the fine. Experts fear he could endure years behind bars.
I don't know whether they think that British nationals are that rich or that they have properties to sell to pay these extortionate fines. But if you can't pay that fine, you are going to be imprisoned and you'll eventually end up paying off that fine by the number of days you're in prison.
Steve's receiving, quote, consular support, according to the government here. They say they're in contact with authorities over there. We asked officials in Abu Dhabi for comment. We've yet to have a response. Rob Smith, ITV News, Stockport.
And we'll be following developments on that. OK, let's take a look at what's coming up on the ITV News at 6:30 now with Mary.
Coming up on the programme, an historic moment in the Commons as Ukraine's president addresses MPs. Just hours after his defiant video from the streets of Kiev, Volodymyr Zelensky became the first head of state to talk directly to the chamber. But the refugee crisis grows. 2 million have now fled Ukraine. Is help coming from the West? At 7, the Georgian Legion training camp that's welcomed 2 Brits to fight Russia. But are they right to join up? Plus, John Bercow is banned from Parliament after astonishing allegations of bullying. That and the rest of the day's news at 6:30.
OK, on to sport now, and there is still work to do for Liverpool if they're to reach the Champions League quarter-final tonight. Chris.
Yeah, they're 2-0 up, but Jurgen Klopp says that's the most vulnerable lead in football at the halfway stage. Inter Milan are at Anfield tonight for the second leg of their last 16 tie. Liverpool will be favourites to go through, but the Italian champions are coming off the back of a 5-0 win at the weekend, and Klopp says that makes them dangerous.
That's a really good, really experienced team, and they don't come here as tourists. I know that. They want to chase the game, and that's what we want to do, because we are not a team who defends results or whatever, tries to get through somehow. We want to attack the game again, and yeah, let's see what we can get for it.
Some sad news from Everton now. Their former manager, Gordon Lee, has died at the age of 87. He led the Blues to the 1977 League Cup final and also steered them to a pair of FA Cup semi-finals and 2 top 4 finishes in Division 1. He also managed Preston and led Blackburn to the 3rd Division title. Former Everton captain Kevin Ratcliffe, who was given his debut by Lee, said his coaching methods were ahead of his time and his passing is a very sad one. Wigan Athletic can clinch a return to Wembley tonight. The 2013 FA Cup winners are taking on Sutton in the semi-finals of the Papa John's Trophy. And fans have been queuing down the street to wish their heroes good luck. They might also have been attracted by the promise of free tickets and free pizza, but the players need all the support they can get for their 49th game of a gruelling season.
We need them more than anything, especially going through the tough seasons we're going through, and especially for games on Tuesday against Sutton in the semi-final. It's going to be tough and we need the fans, so it's great to have them down here.
You know, it's great interaction for everyone to come down here and, you know, see the trophy themselves and, you know, get a free pizza as well, prepare and hopefully to win the round and, you know, get to Wembley and hopefully lift this big trophy.
Yeah, good luck to Wigan tonight. Next, though, on International Women's Day, we meet the boxing pioneer leading the fight to make her sport more inclusive. Louise Fay runs adaptive classes in Salford, which are open to all abilities and disabilities. As one of the first qualified coaches in a wheelchair, she wants to make boxing accessible for all and hopes to see it at the 2028 Paralympics. David Chisnall has been to see her in action.
Go! At this gym in Salford, the punches aren't the only things making a big impact.
2, 1, let's!
Louise Fay is a boxing pioneer who's opening up her sport to those who it was previously closed to.
This is an inclusive adaptive boxing session. So what you can see behind me is a range of boxers with a diverse range of needs. So whether that be a physical disability, neurodiverse challenge or a learning and development requirement, it's a safe space for everybody to be able to box and adapt it to suit their individual requirements.
That's it, that's it.
Well, Louise started boxing after being medically retired from the police in 2017. She has a degenerative condition that affects her spine, pelvis and legs. And it was during a rehab session with her personal trainer that she was encouraged to give it a go.
I saw a punch bag in the corner of the room and I just said, I'd have loved to have done that, you know, as a standing traditional boxer. And he looked straight back and said, why don't you do it in your chair? And I couldn't think of a reason why not. So the very next day I bought myself a pair of gloves and started to look for an adaptive boxing coach, and that's where I realised that there was a void within the boxing world.
Can someone come and hold the back of Chris's chair so we don't roll away?
Well, motivated to change that, in 2019 Louise became the WBC's first female adaptive boxer and coach. A year later, she was one of only 2 wheelchair users to qualify as an England boxing coach. She's now launched Chronic Warriors and runs weekend sessions out of the VIP gym in Salford. Good. Classes have been such a hit. They have around 100 members, with people travelling from as far as Edinburgh to attend.
They're very important to me, because without boxing, my mental health would be worse than it is. I want to go to the Paralympics. I want to turn pro and become world champion. That's my dream.
I always wanted to have a go at the boxing, and with being on a crutch I was a little bit, well, how's this going to work? Because you've only then got one hand to punch if you're then using that, and I couldn't work it out, and then Louise like, just jump in the chair and do it that way, and I was like, oh yeah, I could do that.
Go!
It's helping me because I've got anger issues and I fight with my brother a lot, and
we don't want that, basically. So I'm here to use the bags.
Keep it on.
For Louise, the well-being of her boxers is priority, and she's been working closely with the sports authorities on regulations to make sure all adaptive sessions are safe.
We've just applied to become the first England adaptive boxing academy. The 2 inspectors that were due to come over to have a look from England Boxing said to me, on their way over, the answer was no, because of what they'd seen online. By the time they'd finished in the gym, the answer was yes, because we rewrote that narrative, and that's what it's about.
Well, Louise hopes to see adaptive boxing at the Los Angeles Paralympics in 6 years' time. There's still a long road ahead, but the wheels are in motion, and with Louise leading the way, anything is possible. David Chisnell, ITV News, Salford.
I tell you something, you've got to be brave to step into a boxing ring, and there were some pretty fearless people in that report. Fantastic.
Yeah, Louise Fay, what an inspiration you are. Thanks, Chris. Which brings us to your suggestions for some of the best women in the Northwest for International Women's Day. Will McGukin from Highton says, my absolute rock is Lucy. She got me through my bone marrow transplant at the Clatterbridge Cancer Centre. I couldn't have done it without her and my other half, Leslie.
Yeah, Kathy in Salford nominates Pauline Town, who runs the Station Pub in Ashton. She feeds upwards of 50 homeless lads and lasses, helps to get them shelter. She is an angel.
She is, well done. Darren Greenshield says, Sharon Britton, chairman of Bolton Wanderers, who saved our club, an unbelievable woman who's done so much for the club and for the town.
Great people there. Time for the weather.
He's cooked up a storm and now he's going to scrape the fat into the bin instead of the sink. My guy.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hang on, was that a fish?
Thank you. Very good evening to you. Some beautiful sunshine around today. Slightly more cloud has been building through this afternoon from the west. And as we head into tonight, parts of the Isle of Man could see some rain and Irish Sea coast. Over the next couple of days, there'll be more cloud in general in the forecast. Windy conditions continue to be a feature, with some rain for all of us by this weekend. Now, it's western parts of the region tonight and again tomorrow that will see just a little bit of rain, but for many of us, dry again for much of tomorrow. As we get towards the weekend, though, fronts will be allowed access to our part of the world, and it becomes wet and windy for Saturday. But back to this evening, and cloud will break from time to time. Last night it got down below freezing, but tonight, probably with the breeze and the bits and pieces of cloud, we're looking around 3 or 4 degrees. Generally dry conditions as we go through the night tonight. And temperature-wise, as I mentioned before, towns and cities 5 or 6, rurally 3 or 4, and quite a breeze across the region as we head towards dawn, which is happening tomorrow at 6:41, setting at 3 minutes past 6 tomorrow evening. Tomorrow, perhaps a cloudy start where you are, quite gusty winds. Bright or sunny spells will get out from time to time tomorrow, and a mainly dry day for most of us. But out in the west there's some rain, and that will nudge into the Isle of Man during the course of the day tomorrow. Temperature-wise, it'll get to around 11 or 12 Celsius, above average for the time of year, but if you factor in the wind, perhaps not feeling incredibly warm. And then looking ahead, more cloud around from Thursday onwards. Temperatures are fairly stable and there's no frost to come by night, but rain and some fairly strong winds will feature as we go into the weekend. United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Bob! Amy!
Thanks, Joe. More amazing women. Kate says, my mum, Brenda Challoner, my sisters and I wouldn't be the strong women we are today without her. That's from Kate, Harriet and Louise.
Yeah, Louise Edge says, Michelle Langan is an inspirational woman for all she's done for the homeless in Liverpool.
And Jed says, for all the nurses at the Manchester Royal Infirmary, for their kindness and care, if you could bottle that, what a great society we'd have.
Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Good night.